All right, so we are now joined by Billy Jaffe for episode 5. You can see him on NESN as well as the NHL Network. He does some college hockey work for NESN as well as ESPN, so you can catch him there. So Billy, thanks for joining us, and thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. Always happy to help out.
Yeah. So I like to kind of take it back. You grew up in Chicago. What was kind of the hockey culture there? Obviously, with the original six, with the Blackhawks. What was hockey like in Chicago growing up for you? And when did you first fall in love with the game?
Well, I'll do the second part first. I fell in love with the game when I was, I'm told at least, when I was 2 years old. I used to take a little, I guess it was a milk crate or some type of a stool and go sit in front of the television to watch the Blackhawks play. And to watch, there was an old cartoon character called Peter Puck, which you may have heard of now, but you don't remember the original because you weren't even born. But Peter Puck was this animated character of a puck that would talk and move around, and it was built or made, I think, to bring kids in. Anyways, and so I loved hockey, loved Peter Puck, and I would watch. And about four, I think, 3.5, I'm told I started skating, but about four, I was put on the ice at 4.5 years old to play hockey. And I went out and I cried my eyes out the first time I played because hockey skates hurt and my ankles were bending. And I turned around and wanted to come off, and my dad stopped me, grabbed me, and spun me around and pushed me back out again. And my mom wanted to get me off, and my dad was like, "Nope, you can't. No son of mine's going to quit first time." So that's when I fell in love with it. I guess hated it, and then fell in love again. What was the hockey culture like in Chicago? It was, I mean, look, the Blackhawks were, for many years, they were must watch, and they had their days when they played in Chicago. Like, they had their days, their home
Right.
games, and one of the big ones was Sunday night home games, and that would be after a Bears game at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So you'd have people go right from Soldier Field to the old Chicago Stadium, and they were beyond canned. I mean, they were absolutely blitzed. And then
Yeah.
at 7:30, that game is starting. You'd have people walking up to the second balcony, and I remember going there as a kid and then just like amazed at the colors and the pageantry, and then also just the people and how some of them were just, canned drunk, and it was
Yeah.
awesome, but it was great. So look, it was great culture. There was an issue at times in Chicago with the ownership and with Bill Wirtz that he wouldn't put home games on TV. So I could
Yeah.
only watch half of the games. But overall, original six and Stan Mikita, Bobby Hull, all those guys, it was Tony Esposito. It was great.
Yeah. Then you played prep hockey in Connecticut,
Mm-hmm.
and then you went to Michigan and you played 2
Mm-hmm.
years there. Obviously, Michigan, big school, big football school, but obviously they have a tremendous hockey program there as well. A lot of guys in the NHL now
Yep.
come from there. So, what was that experience like? Getting there, so when did you know you were going to go to Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
And then what was your experience like playing there?
Well, I always liked Michigan. Always been enamored with it, being from the Midwest, being from Chicago. It's a big school in the Midwest. My family had East Coast roots, though, Boston roots, because my mom's side is from Boston. And my dad went to school at Brown, and then he went to grad school in Boston as well. So I had this mix, but Michigan and the football helmets, right? The distinct
Yeah.
helmets were always, I mean, Saturday afternoon, Keith Jackson football, college football from the big house. It was big. I knew a lot of people that went to Michigan. They were older than me. And so there was always this affection or affinity towards it. Fast forward to, I think I was 16 or so, 15, 16, start getting recruited by schools. They had contacted me, but, there was some interest, this and that. End up going to Kent School in Connecticut, as you brought up, to play my senior year. And I keep getting recruited by other schools as well, especially out east. I had already gone and talked to the coaches at Michigan before. One time when I was up there on my own, I was actually visiting somebody before my allowed recruiting visit. So it was all on me. I went and sat and talked to the coaches. And so we had kept in touch. And then they kept talking to me. They came and they saw me. And I think I decided in early spring that that's where I would go. I'm going to say mid-spring, March or so.
Yep.
That's where, maybe it was April 1st. I don't remember. But, my experience there was awesome from a growth perspective, from a educational perspective. It was good, not great in a hockey perspective. I was a good player. I wasn't great. My standard line is I was probably better. Maybe I was better than what I showed, but maybe not as good as what I thought, or what what ended up happening there is after a couple of years, I didn't actually love the game anymore for a while. I just didn't feel like I was be given the fair opportunity. And so I decided, even though I got along fine with the coaches, I loved my teammates, I lost my love for the game, believe it or not. And I just said, what am I doing? So I was going to transfer. I was going to transfer. But then I'm like, I'm sitting out a year. I'm going to have to go somewhere else. And I love Michigan. I got into school. I had good grades, but would I have gotten in without hockey? I don't know. So, I said, I'm going to make this decision. It was hard, man. It was hard. It was very hard. I said, if I'm not going to love it, I can't do it because it's not fair to me or my teammates. And I became an official right away. The coaches, they all asked me to stay. They asked me to play.
Yeah.
But at that moment, I was at a crossroads, and I don't regret it. Do I wish my career ended up better? Sure. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
But do I regret it? No, because I was honest with myself at the time.
Yeah. How difficult was that for you? Just because, you've played the game, from when you were
Brutal.
younger up until then. And then, to walk away, that definitely must've been tough for you.
Brutal. It was brutal. It was very tough, but it was beyond tough. It was, emotional. You're talking 20-year-old kid at the time, and you think that that's old, no offense, and it's not.
Yeah.
But people talked to me. They asked me to take some time to think about it, to do this, to do that. They were very nice about it. But, at that point, I don't know what I can go back to those moments, but to relive them, I can't tell you the exact feeling, but I just remember thinking, if I'm not in love with it and willing to pay the price every day, is it fair to me? Is it fair to my teammates? And, I actually thought about going back for my junior, but then I just said, you know what, that's maybe not fair either. Maybe, is that selfish? I think the lesson is that we all need time away at times from certain things, but it was tough. No, there were a couple of days that were brutal. I remember back for me at Michigan.
Yeah. And then you mentioned becoming an official after. How did that all come about? And is that something that you were interested in prior?
Not really. No, I don't know if anybody's really interested in being a ref. I mean, I guess some guys are.
Yeah.
I kid. I love the officials. I remember looking at that opportunity and talking with people involved. And I've always been a talker. What I do for a living, and I BS a lot and everything. And I just, you get to know the officials a little bit. And then I just thought about, maybe I'd become an official, and I started talking to some referees, and it's kept me in the game, right? And the league said to me, we'd love to have you as an official. And they moved me in right away once I, with very minimal experience. I mean, minimal. I became a college hockey linesman. And then within the next year, I was a North American Junior League ref. And I was working regularly in college hockey in the CCHA. So it became a way to really stay involved at a high level and to think about it from a different perspective. And it really, I got to be honest with you, it has helped make me a much better broadcaster by and I ended up doing that for 4 or 5 years. There was talk about, hey, would you be interested in going to the National Hockey League camp? They could get me an invite. I went to a USA hockey officiating camp one time in Minnesota, and I enjoyed it. I did. I enjoyed it, and I wanted to stick with it. But I don't know if I had the overall passion for it that some of these other guys did that were like really like this focused on it.
Yeah.
I was good at it. I could do it for a long time, but I said, I don't know if I want to go do that. I don't know if I want to pack my car and travel from Des Moines to Dubuque to somewhere in, Wichita Falls, Texas to do, junior. So, but
Exactly.
I did for 4 or 5 years. I really, really enjoyed it. It served me very well.
And obviously refs, they take a lot of flack. It's a tough job. I think it's probably the hardest officiating to do out of any sport. Having done it yourself, do you have a lot more respect for the officials now and kind of how difficult their
Significantly.
job is?
Yeah. Since day one. I mean, my buddies that I work with on NESN in particular give me some crap here and there when I defend the refs, or at least I try and give the refs perspective a little bit.
Right.
Barry Peterson likes to give me crap, but no, the refs don't ever get much respect. It is hard. I can't tell you it's the hardest. I mean, we know how fast it is, right? You understand that. But I think every sport has its real challenges from an officiating perspective. I mean, you're baseball umping, you're picking up a ball coming in at 99 miles an hour. Holy smokes, right? I mean, I know it's stationary, but it isn't really. Anyways, hockey officiating, if you're with a good crew, it's just like a team on the ice. You're coordinated together. You're supporting each other. The key about officiating is not to get tunnel vision. It's to know what's happening in front of you, but to be aware of everything that's going on around you. That's tough.
Right. Exactly. And then, so you break into broadcasting. So after Michigan, you got a job. When I was doing research before, in the food industry. So you were doing that, and then
I love the food business.
I know. I know you're a big
business.
foodie yourself.
Great. Yeah. I've been in the food business for a while, in and out of it. Got sales jobs in it, had opportunities. I went and I played a couple of games in it was Colonial League. I played for a team out of Muskegon. Actually, Bruce Boudreau was the coach there. I played 2 games for him, and I'm like, it was in, camp. And I was like, you know what, Gab, I didn't call him Gabby then, but Bruce, I'm like, Coach, I think I'm going to go back. I'm like, I think they're going to pay me like $274 a week or something like that. And I'm just like, no. So I got an opportunity. I was in the food business, and that was a great training. And I was playing with a phenomenal group of guys, a really great hockey team called the Chicago Chargers. And we used to barnstorm around the country playing. So we were working, but we were playing hockey where we didn't make money, but we had stuff paid for us when we traveled and everything.
Yeah.
It was great. It was some awesome hockey too.
Yeah. And especially when, in your younger years, that must've been great, just doing that and
awesome
life. Yeah, for sure. And then, so you break into broadcasting with the Blackhawks as a radio analyst. How did that job all come about?
We don't have enough time. I will just tell you this, that it was because of my relationship with a gentleman at a health club where I worked out when I was working for a couple of years. And then I was still playing with the Chicago Chargers. A gentleman there, I was the youngest kid there at 6 a.m., 5:36 in the morning. I was 26, 27, 28. He took a real liking towards me. Wonderful guy. All these older guys at the time were like mentors to me. Long story short, he says to me, he knows I played hockey. I know he's involved in hockey. He says, we're looking for a guy to help on the radio side, the analyst, because Darren Pang's leaving. And he's going to ESPN full time. Would you be interested? I'm like, yeah, okay. And fast forward a couple of months, and we talked a little bit about it, but then long story short, a meeting opportunity came up with the station director and general manager, and they liked me. I liked them. They said, what do you think? Would you want to give it a go? And I said, sure. And like a few weeks later, I was sitting at the United Center in the broadcast room downstairs, and first preseason game, I just listened and viewed things. And then second preseason game, they're like, here's your microphone, here's your headset, go for it. And that was it. So that's the whole way it began. It really began because of a man by the name of Jim Fitzgerald. So he gave me a chance.
And that's that's completely different from anything you had ever done before, because you really never were into broadcasting at all. What was it? You remember that first game and kind of what that feeling like was for you?
Yeah, I do. I wasn't nervous, and it was exciting. And I believe it was the Blackhawks in St. Louis preseason game. I know it was a second preseason game in September. That I know. I wasn't nervous. I was excited, but I was also confident. And like nerves aren't a bad thing. Nerves are always great, but you still have to have confidence. And I was afraid that I'd be so nervous but it was natural to me. I was just talking about what I saw on the ice and what I had done since I had been 4. And, I had done, and I was always an analytical player. I was always, I loved creating versus, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love scoring, but I
Right.
loved the creating part of it and the talking about it. And what did we do right here and not right there? And so maybe you could say it was a natural fit, and it was. And I was working with another young guy. I think I was 29, maybe 30 when I got that chance. And he was a little younger than me, but we hit it off and became partners. And we did that for 2 years together. It was a great introduction to broadcasting. I had done 2 games as an analyst at Michigan. When I was done playing, they'd asked me if I would go be part of the radio. I'd done that, but yeah, I'd never been involved in broadcasting before,
Yeah.
except like giving an interview as a player,
Right.
not not
Exactly.
not not recording one.
And then you got the job with the Atlanta Thrashers, doing radio, and then you did some TV as well
Yeah.
there. What was that like for you in Atlanta? I know it's so different from, being in Chicago and any original Six city. Yeah, what was that like for you? And what was that experience in Atlanta? Because obviously they had some talent on that team. They had the Kovalchuks, the Hoses, the Heatleys. They had some real talent there, but they never really got to put it together. So what was that like
No,
for
they
you?
didn't. Well, you're going into the Hosa and years. That's right at the end of my run in Atlanta before I
Yep.
went to New York. Um, but they had some hard times. There wasn't as much NHL talent really for a couple of years
Yep.
there. I went to Atlanta in the second year of their existence. I was I mean, I got a crazy opportunity to go there literally 10 days before the season began. That was how the whole thing came together. I went and it was great. I mean, look, I was radio analyst, and then I was pregame intermission and some post-game television, and I was post-game radio show host. So they gave me all these opportunities and was able to build up an awful lot of my career. Of course, Atlanta had a lot of people from the north, but it had more people from the south, and so we heard an awful lot of the whole we know, what's the difference between a blue line and a clothesline? Well, most people in Atlanta didn't know it, right?
Yeah.
But some people did. We used to get crap when I would always try and explain the game, but not offend the people who didn't know much about it or
Right.
knew a ton about it. I'd find that midline.
Right.
And people at times would be like, you don't need to say what that was offside for. And I'd be like, you know what? I do need to say it, because for now, our first few years, a lot of people are still learning what offside is. Bear with me, type of thing. So it was great. The people were friendly. The eventual demise of the Thrashers was because they had gong show ownership situation after a while. That's what it was. It could have survived there. Had a real nice rink, different style rink in Phillips Arena, but very, very nice. It wasn't it was downtown Atlanta, which maybe was ill advised. They maybe should have kept it out in the suburbs where a lot of the people that were interested in hockey were, and Atlanta sucks for traffic. It's
Yeah.
god awful. So that didn't help. But overall, I think it was 6 years I spent there. There were some trying times, no question, but there were also a lot of great times, and I really appreciate the opportunity I got there.
Yeah. Would you say that's kind of where you really kind of built yourself up as a broadcaster, because you did, the radio and the TV side of things?
I would say that where I built, I learned about being a broadcaster even more. I learned about the NHL the first few years. Not that I hadn't been around it and friends that played in it, but working in it is very different than those things. And I learned an awful lot there. Yeah, I cut my teeth. I had also done a lot of games with the Chicago Wolves, my few couple of years in Chicago. And I will tell you something. It was the old IHL then. You don't know I'm not saying you don't.
No.
The old IHL was
Yeah.
a phenomenal league where a lot of older players that were really good enough in some ways to play in the NHL, but just not quite good enough to be regulars, would go play in the I because they made a lot of money and it was really good hockey. And the cities were better than the American League. So the point of telling you that, Matt, is that I was at the Wolves, which was just an awesome organization, unbelievably well run, passionate fans. They treated every game huge. Like we did every game on TV. Like it was awesome it was TV and radio. It was just, for a minor league team. we'd get once the second half of the season came around, the Wolves were getting 10 to 15,000 a game. They were selling out the arena. It was awesome. So anyways, I learned a ton there too. The camaraderie though that you have in the minor leagues compared to even as a broadcaster, compared to what you have in the NHL is night and day. It's not that you're not important to the people in the NHL. It's you're separate. In the American League or the IHL, look, I would go out and skate with the guys after that were a scratch for that. I'd go out and skate with them in the IHL. In the NHL, would you ever do that with those guys? Hell no.
No. Yeah.
No. I mean, I'm great friends with the guys in the IHL. Now, granted, I was younger too and everything. But, we would go out to dinner, and if they were there, we'd have dinner with them. In the NHL, it's frowned upon.
Yeah.
Even though these are the same guys, it's just frowned.
Right.
So again, the long-winded answer, I learned a ton in Atlanta, and you respect it and you understand things, and you mature and everything. So it's great. But I will say that I think I really matured as a broadcaster the most in New York when I went there next to work the Islanders games. I worked with some phenomenal production people, television people there. And don't get me wrong, Atlanta had a lot of great people too, but my role was this big mix. In New York, I was full-time television.
Right. And that's where I was exactly going to go next. Good segue there. I mean, you were still with the Thrashers when the Islanders were looking to bring you in, correct?
I was on a golf course when I got a call in late August that the Islanders MSG network wanted to talk to me. Yes.
Yeah. And so what was that like for you in leaving Atlanta and then going to New York? Is that something that you wanted to do right away?
Yeah.
Once you got that offer?
Yeah. I mean, the offer, once I finally got it, what a gong show that was too. I mean, that took forever. It took a long time because the owner of the Islanders was Charles Wong at the time. He, they had to finally, get his approval to bring me in. Yet he was on safari in South Africa, and he wouldn't get back to them and whatever. And so I finally reached an agreement with them when I was on vacation. My wife and I before kids would always take a big trip in early September, whether it was to a beach somewhere, to Europe, whatever, because that was no kids. That was the greatest time to do it. So we're on vacation in Spain, in southern Spain, and I'm going to an internet cafe, which are big, were especially big back then. And I'm like talking to my agent, who's my buddy, and I'm like, holy smokes, when the hell is this thing going to get done? And finally we get an offer and everything. Yes, I wanted to do it because when it was happening, the Thrashers were really good to me, really good. It was late in the summer. It was early fall. So they could have gotten screwed, except they had a guy waiting in the wings, that a former player there, Jeff Odgers, that they could use. So for me, it was great because I'm going to New York. I'm going to MSG. I knew the president and the executive producer there. Really, I know it was more the executive producer I knew. She was the one that wanted to bring me in. So I was confident with that. But I was just like, holy smokes, I'm going to New York. I don't care that it's the island. I'm going to New York, And so that was great. Like, that was a challenge. And I took that head on. And the first year there was a lot of, who the hell is this kid? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Who's the guy with the big eyebrows? That's what I heard,
Yeah.
And I didn't take it personally because people don't like change. They had their broadcaster, Joe Micheletti, for 8 or 9 years. And so you get it, you deal with it. It's like playing hockey. You take a hit or you get a punch and you get back up and you keep going. But the 4 or 5 years I was there were great for the most part. They really were.
Yeah. And do you get a lot of that sometimes, especially earlier on in your career, because you didn't play in the NHL and you're analyzing games, and do people they're kind of like, oh, I don't know.
A few people.
Yeah.
A few people, who's had issues with it more than anybody. And this is very curious and very telling. Non-hockey people, meaning TV people, or like an executive producer from a network might be like, well, geez, didn't play in the NHL. So how can we have them represent our team? Meanwhile, every general manager, president, hockey player I speak with, they see how hard I work. They see the dedication I put in.
Right.
It's not like I never put on skates either.
Exactly.
Now, I can't tell you, and I wish I could tell you what it's like to skate on the ice for one shift in an NHL game. I can't tell you that. But I can tell you what it's like to take a puck in the face. I can tell you what it's like to score a goal, to take a punch, to give one, to get hit in the and you know what I mean? Like all these things, to be sitting on the bench. But it's about, see, the thing about broadcasting, it's how you can have all the knowledge in the world. It's just like being a coach.
Right.
But if you can't translate it to the people, so what? It doesn't matter. So that's always been my gift, is being and I don't mean like I'm lucky. Oh, I am lucky. I've worked on it to take what I know and to what I've learned, and to then entertain, give information. That's what I've learned. And so, yeah, there's a little pushback here and there, but when the guys saw how hard I worked and how much I love it, and by the way, again, when I was younger, I used to skate in Chicago all the time with the guys over the summer. So it's like they knew that I had played at a decent level.
Right. And you had been around the game for a long time at that point too. So yeah. And then that brought you to NESN, where you currently are. Obviously another original six city. I know you started with Chicago, and now you're in Boston. What's it like covering an original six team, especially here in Boston, where the fan base is just so passionate? They know their hockey. And obviously it's a great city, and the players love being there. Yeah.
The interesting thing, when I covered the Blackhawks, another, original six team, they were, oh my God, they were dog doo-doo. I mean, they went through those tough years, late, very, 99, early 2000. I mean, there was games, literally, I remember one time, I think there were, I don't know, 8,000 there. It was awful. Right. And you still had respect for it, but it was hard because they were deemed so poor. So they were viewed so poorly in the city. And it was really a heartbreaking thing, because that jersey, the Indian head logo, I mean, it's so proud, right? It's such a proud franchise. It was bad. Fast forward to my time with the Bruins, and I mean, the Blackhawks came back. We all know that. And thank God they did, for hockey and for them. But the Bruins, since I've been here, have been just amazing. I grew up a Bruins fan, despite the fact that I lived in Chicago. I grew up a legitimate Bruins fan because my mom's family is all from Boston. And my connection to the Bruins from the age of, I'm going to say, 2 or 3 years old, is legit. I used to read the box scores when I finally learned how to read all the time. And because my grandmother, my Nana, I was so close to her. She lived in Boston, and we would talk once a week. Again, you can't understand how calls on landlines used to cost, and it was cheaper rates on Sunday. So you would pick up the phone, and my parents would say, okay, you can, we're going to call Nana and talk. And we would talk for an hour, because my mom lived in Chicago now and her mom was still in Boston anyways. And so we'd all get our 15 minutes or something. And I couldn't wait to talk about hockey and the Bruins to her. She loved sports and she loved the Bruins, and they became my team. So to come work with the Bruins organization, I'm under contract with NESN, but to work for the Bruins, when it came to fruition in 2011, after the Stanley Cup, I covered the Cup for NHL Network on the ice with the Bruins. That was phenomenal. But then to work for the Bruins, I worked out a deal with them, was, I'm not going to say a career goal, because I don't really have a career goal. It's just to keep working and keep trying new things. But it was really incredible feeling. The original six franchise thing is legit, especially when they're treated the right way. The way how good the team has been. Yeah, there's going to be down years here or there, but since I've been around, they've been pretty damn freaking good.
Yeah. And,
I'm never going to be a Boston Bruin. We all know that. But I hope that I can, as long as I'm able to be here doing it, I hope that I can be viewed as somebody who loved the Bruins, passionate about them, who helped make watching the Bruins more entertaining. Am I going to become part of the fabric? I don't know. Not much. I don't think, quite honest. I'm a broadcaster. I'm an analyst.
Yeah.
And I should never be that big of a deal. But can I be a teeny tiny part of it for a generation of Bruins fans? You know what? If I'm fortunate enough to do it for a long time, great, that'd be awesome. I don't know if it, I hope it'll happen. I truly enjoy talking about them.
Yeah. And then, you've covered you've been Chicago, Atlanta, Boston. You've covered a lot of players. Who have been some of the players that you've really enjoyed to cover in your time?
Oh man. I've had a few guys, I mean, more than a few. I've been very, very lucky. Look, when I was at Chicago, I'm still friends with some of the guys from the Chicago Wolves. I might not talk to them much or all here, but I could pick up the phone and call them. That was a different level, different relationship. A guy who always jumps out to me is Wendell Young, he's now their GM, just phenomenal guy. But I mean, the coaches from there too, John Anderson, everything. Did Kevin Cheveldayoff, GM? I don't get to talk to him often. He's with Winnipeg now, but twice a year connection. No, great guys. But from the NHL, covering, working with. I mean, Joe Thornton, I always think about what he's like. But from the teams that I've actually been with in New York, Dwayne Rollison with the Islanders, it's fantastic. Billy Guerin, one of my all-time greatest favorites, just a tremendous character. There's a guy by the name of Andy Sutton who played, who pretty, he used to be very tight with. We connect now here and there, still very friendly. With the Bruins, very different relationship with some of the guys, but like last night at my hockey practice for my son's team, Adam McQuaid came out, and he's just a guy that he's retired now and everything. And I did a show with him, and I said to Adam, would you ever want to come out? And like a week later, he's out there, and he's just one of the most genuine guys you'll meet. Sean Corrali, wonderful guy. I mean, look, who doesn't love a Bergeron, a Marchand, a Pasternak? And I love covering them. I mean, I say it all the time. I got a hockey man crush on Patrice Bergeron. Just the way he carries
does
himself,
everything the right way.
Everything. So those guys are all great. Zdeno Chara was one of the most impressive guys I've ever covered. But Z is, you don't really get to know him that well as part of the media, which is fine.
Right.
But I actually did an event with him once. I hosted, and he was the key guest, and there's a great connection, great respect there. Look, I go on and on and on, but there's a lot of guys that I consider very special people, very excellent at what they do. But when it's all said and done, I care more about the person than I do the hockey player. And there's a lot of good ones in our game.
Right. And then lastly, just a couple quick points. You do some work for obviously NESN, ESPN. You do the college hockey coverage, especially for the tournament, the Bean Pot. Obviously, having been a college player, that's probably pretty special to cover those college tournaments.
It is. And I'm tremendously grateful and respectful of the Bean Pot, especially because I didn't play in it, and I'm not from Boston. Even though, again, I have the roots, the New England roots, legit roots. They've always had a Boston guy do it. Brick did it for I don't know how many years, but he played at New Hampshire, but he's still so he's not a Beanpot team guy, but he's a Boston Bruin, and he is from Boston. So for them to give me the opportunity to do it, and look, I love being in the booth. I do. I mean, that was where I was in the booth with the Islanders. I'm in the booth with ESPN and all that. So this is another opportunity for me to be back in the booth. I love it. I really respect the hell out of it because I know how important the Bean Pod is. In particular, the last few years, the coverage has been outstanding. The viewership has been great. So I love doing that. And I also remember that for many of these college kids, college is going to be the pinnacle for what they do in their hockey career. And that's amazing because Division I college hockey is brutally tough to make, brutally tough. And so they get them there, and I want to treat it. I want to have fun with it. I want to be knowledgeable about it. And I want to make sure the people watching at home, because I know so many of those people are either family or friends of the kids that are playing, I want to make sure that I have my information accurate. So that's why it's very special to me.
Yeah. And then lastly, as you mentioned, you've worked in the food business. You're a big foodie. What's
Yeah.
what's your favorite spot in Boston to go to?
Oh boy. I don't have one. My wife and I were talking the other day about where we're going to go when this mess of a
Yeah.
situation is, when very manageable. We've been
Right.
supporting restaurants as much as we can right now with takeout and everything, but to go sit down and have dinner with another couple, right? And
Yeah.
just to really enjoy it. Where are we going to go in? There's a lot. Look, I need to tell you, there's so many good places. Favorite spot. I mean, look, I'm going to go working backwards. I love Mike's Pastry. The people there are just the greatest people in the world, the owners, managers, and I love sweets. That's not a good thing at my age, but I love them. So that's always go there, and we get treated just so beautifully there. For dinner, I mean, I love everything. Like send me to a hole in the wall restaurant. I do love Pomodoro on Hanover, real tiny, like 8 tables or 10 tables in there. I love a great steakhouse. I used to love when I was growing up, I'd come into town once or twice a year and we'd go to Chinatown. It's almost non-existent now, but there's a place there, the gourmet dumpling house. I love going there. I don't get to go there much right now. I I'm not blanking. I'm just thinking, oh, I like
Yeah.
that place. I like this place. I like that place.
There's a
Obviously,
lot.
seafood. Yeah, I mean, if I can go to some place, I'll drive 45 minutes for a great lobster and fried scallops or whatever. I don't care. I eat everything. The only thing I don't like are mushrooms. It's
Yeah.
just it. I just don't like mushrooms.
Yeah. Well, hey, Billy, thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it. I know you got a busy schedule. And yeah, look forward to seeing more of your coverage going forward.
You got it. And if anybody out there wants even more Bruins coverage, we have a new
Yes.
show, The Morning Brew, BRU, Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. We're on all podcasts and YouTube and everything.
Yep.
And it's only a month in, but we've been having a great time doing it. And it's full Bruins coverage. So
Awesome. There you
check it
go,
out.
guys. Check it out for sure. All
Thanks a
right,
lot for
Billy.
having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
Bye.